Hi, my name is Kate. Even though I'm 22, I keep doing something I used to do as a little kid, and this interferes with my daily life in very nasty ways. Hey, don't laugh. Take my story to heart so you don't end up in a similarly awful situation yourself. I was always a sociable girl. High school was an especially exciting time for me. When I was a teen, my friends and I were hanging out in the yard that one time. We noticed the street sweeper doing her job cleaning out the autumn leaves. There were so many leaves and they just kept piling up on the ground faster than she could possibly sweep them. We decided we'd prank her. After she left for her lunch break, we quickly swept all of the leaves into the dumpster. When she returned to her shift, she tentatively swung her broom left and right, and then she just stopped to look around in confusion. The ground was so clean her brain simply couldn't process the change that occurred within mere minutes. After she realized it was a surprise we had arranged for her, she invited us into her utility room and bought us cake. I guess she probably wanted us to clean another yard for her, but we weren't really up for that. I also remember an old woman living on the first floor of our condo who was kind of standoffish. She was grumpy with adults and she'd yell at kids if we were laughing too loudly, too close to her window, or something. One day, we set a box of kittens next to the entrance so that the canopy would protect them from the pouring rain, and she just put them back out into the open. Of course, we just took our pets to a different condo entrance. The tenants there actually fed them, but tempers flared in our house after her display of cruelty. We were plotting to teach the old hag a lesson, but then we decided we were better than that. In order to beat her with kindness, we bought a heap of second-hand clothes for her in a Black Friday sale. She was indeed pleasantly surprised, and we were happy to have guessed her size. She actually became a much nicer person after that. I suppose it was loneliness that had made her grumpy, and a simple good deed was enough to bring her around. By the time I graduated from high school, my sociability made me join a youth subculture. I really just wanted to find new friends. At first, it was harmless get-togethers where we would read books and listen to music. After a while, every meeting would end with some kind of a ritual or divination session. Once, we summoned the spirit of a deceased person to ask him some questions. He actually answered, and I could hear his hollow voice with my own ears. That was spooky stuff that made me secretly cringe in fear. But then their next brilliant idea was a ritual that made you an initiated member of our society. You needed to find a grave with your name on it and chant a spell while standing next to the tombstone. Then you had to take a selfie on the spot as proof that you really have said your vows at the grave. When I first heard about it in the light of day, the idea seemed fun rather than spooky, and I agreed to go through with the initiation. After dark, we gathered at our rendezvous point and set out for the cemetery. The moon was enormous and very bright, and all was quiet. At first, we were talking and laughing, but the conversation died down as soon as we saw the cemetery gates in front of us. Each of us was deep in their own thoughts. As we approached our destination, I felt more and more scared. My heart was fluttering in my chest. We drew lots. I was the third one to go into the cemetery alone. The two guys who were first in line found suitable graves right next to the entrance and were back in a flash. As in, we could literally see their phone cameras flashing. It was my turn now. The moon provided enough light to read the names easily, but for some reason I couldn't find a single grave of somebody named Kate. Until I went fairly deep into the cemetery. You'd think all Kates were suddenly rendered immortal. At long last, there it was, deep in prickly shrubbery of some kind, Kate's grave. Finally, I muttered. As soon as I produced my phone to take a selfie, the moon suddenly disappeared behind a cloud. The nasty thorns seemed to be clawing at my hair and clothes. I couldn't escape their clutches. Then something terrible happened. A snake slithered up to me from behind the tombstone and bit my leg. I screamed for my life. My foot was paralyzed. I have never felt such horror before in my entire life. My strength gave out and my mind went blank. I could feel my pants getting wet. Thankfully, my friends heard my screams and carried me out of the cemetery in their arms. The huge scratch was bright red against the pale skin of my leg. Fortunately, the wound healed well, and this would have been my happy ending. No harm done, right? Wrong. The harm done to me was terrifying. Next day, I was stupefied to realize I literally lost control over certain natural urges. I embarrassed myself without even noticing it. Obviously, this is a nuisance to say the least. At the moment, I have to just deal with it by wearing a diaper at all times. The doctors are perplexed. None of them can help me. I have to say wearing a diaper when you're 22 years old and female can get really uncomfortable and very noticeable to strangers. Just imagine yourself in my place. And this is the story of a silly hobby leading to dire consequences. To make things worse, I'm unable to date guys and find a relationship. But I'm still hoping to discover a way to cure my affliction. As they say, hope is the last thing you lose.
Would you like to see more episodes? Support us by hitting like and subscribe. If you want to see your story in one of our videos, send it to this email address.